What's up, y'all? This is Austin from Gunshine, and I'm blowing it up on Metal Gods Radio.
Today we have Austin from Gunshine on the screen. You guys have a new album, is that right? Or is it a new single that we're here to talk about somewhat?
A little bit of both. Yeah, we got, so we have a new record called Grand Rising, but we're putting out a single a month. So we have, we're going to do 6 singles for this one. So, but the cool thing is, for the people that don't want to wait till July 24th, whenever it drops digitally, for the people that don't want to wait, we've dropped the physical versions first. So you can go ahead and buy the CD and the exclusive gold vinyl. You can go ahead and buy that right now, so you don't have to wait till July. But yeah, for the streaming side of things, we're kind of doing like a slow rollout. So we released the first single, Goth Girl, in January. The second single was Valentine, appropriately for, Valentine's Day. And then we just released the third single called Single Looks Good on You, and that came out March 27th. So yeah, man, keeping it rolling.
And how did that plan come about? Is this something you've done before?
No, this is something that we've never done before in terms of releasing. You mean in terms of releasing the physical before the?
Yeah.
No, we just kind of thought, because we have a lot of fans that are really into physical media like vinyl, and people. This is actually our first vinyl release, so a lot of people have been asking about that. So we kind of, it's as a newer artist, it's beneficial on the digital side of things to kind of do the slow rollout, because it helps, keep the algorithms kind of engaged or whatever for Spotify and that kind of thing. So,
sure.
But we understand, that there's going to be a certain amount of people that kind of don't want to put up with that because they're just going to buy the CD anyway. Right. So we tried to kind of, best of both worlds, kind of do it like that. So yeah, it's unique. And in today's day and age, you can release music however you want to. And that's the cool thing.
Absolutely. Single Looks Good on You leans into a carefree spring break energy. How do you balance that celebratory tone with the deeper or more introspective moments across Grand Rising?
Yeah, we kind of treat it like, it's really a song by song basis. So we kind of just write for whatever the vibe of that specific song is. It's funny because when I wrote the vocal melodies, a lot of the vocal melodies in that song. When I first was writing stuff, it was more in like a higher register, like an 80s rock kind of vibe. But then, as we kind of started messing with it more, we lowered the key a little bit, and it just sounded beefier, and we call it swamp rock. It sounded swampier. It takes on a little bit of a twang, So some people say, oh, it's got some country vibes or whatever, but we don't really say country. We say swamp rock because we're from Florida, and that's what the twang is for us. It's still more rock and roll. But yeah, so as we were, then Jordan kind of came in with the title. Our singer Jordan came in with the title "Single Looks Good on You" because one of his friends was like going through a breakup, and he kind of told her, he was like, "Well, you know what? Single looks good on you." So he kind of remembered the title, and so lyrically, it just kind of took on like a empowerment, kind of like living your best life, kind of a song. So it's just kind of got that, spring break party kind of vibe. So for a song like that, we kind of kept it a little more like, lighthearted, kind of rock and roll kind of thing.
You worked in both Vancouver and Las Vegas on this record. How did those different environments, along with collaborators like Brian Howes and Chris Collier, I think I said that right, influence the final sound of the album?
Yeah, it's Chris Collier. Yeah. But no, so this was actually the first time we've worked with Chris I've known him for almost 10 years now, and he's a crazy talented multi-instrumentalist, engineer, mixer. He kind of is like a jack of all trades. So he actually played bass on our first album, and he played drums on a lot of this new album as well. So he's really talented, but he mixed and mastered the entire record as well. But aside from that, we had Brian reach out to us, and this was the first time that we've used someone else besides, Chris for anything. So just for those couple songs, Goth Girl and Single Looks Good on You, Brian actually reached out and said he would love to work with the band. And that was really cool because I grew up listening to a lot of the music that Brian's worked on. I mean, he did the first couple Hinder records with all their big hits, Skillet, Daughtry, Nickelback, Simple Plan, a lot of that early 2000 stuff he was a part of, and just, some legendary songs. So, he reached out and we did one Zoom call, like writing session, when we worked on Goth Girl a little bit, and kind of presented him some of the ideas that we had. And then we flew to Vancouver and finished putting that song together with him and his engineer, Carl. And then we did Single Looks Good on You out there as well. So we did those two songs, and that was just an incredible experience. Super talented guy, has a great ear, and is very similar with us in terms of influences and stuff. So, and like I said, Chris is kind of, he did the Mick Mars solo records, worked with Korn, White Snake, and he's kind of like, he brings more of that hard rock metal edge to everything, but is very eclectic, very, versatile and everything as well. So he brings a whole heavy duty kind of punchy sound to the mixing and everything. So yeah, it all came together.
You've described Gunshine sound as swamp rock. What does that mean to you creatively, and how has growing up in Pensacola shaped that identity?
I think sometimes people compare us to like Sunset Strip, LA hair bands and stuff like that. But there's a different twist to what we do. That's not really the California thing. It's being from the South, again, there's a twang to it. There's an edge. Things are nastier. They're not so perfect all the time. You have notes that are kind of bending, in and out of tune, and just like it's a little more like, nasty, I guess you would say. So we kind of incorporate that along with the pretty, poppy melodies and stuff like that too. So it's kind of best of both worlds.
You've been working with Chris for nearly a decade. How has that long-term creative relationship evolved, and what does he bring out of Gunshine that others might not?
I think it just helps when someone knows you, well as a musician and artist. It's kind of like, he knows if I'm playing a guitar solo, he knows like, hey, if you're, he knows whether it was my best take or not, and things like that. Same with Jordan. Like, we know how to get the best out of him and stuff too. So it's one of those things where, the more you work with someone, the more comfortable you get with them. But our process is really like, we're not the kind of band that only has like one little idea, like one riff or something, and then we go into the studio and let the producer kind of put everything together. We're not that way. So I'm really big into like songwriting and producing. So we like to have it about 95% the way that we're going to track it before even going to the studio. So I would say really he just tries to bring out the best in us and just basically take what we're already doing and just kind of elevate it,
Have you ever had a funny or completely unexpected run-in with a celebrity? Maybe someone who turned out to be a secret rock or metal fan, or didn't know your music at all, but instantly loved the name Gunshine?
Haven't really had a whole lot of encounters with Gunshine in terms of that yet, but I used to tour with a band called New Year's Day, and we did WrestleMania actually for Rhea Ripley's entrance. And, I got to be backstage and I got to meet like Hulk Hogan. So that was really cool. And obviously, he's passed away recently. So yeah, just cool things like that. But Gunshine's a fairly newer band, so I'm sure there'll be some more encounters as we keep going here.
Growing up in Florida, were guns and hunting a part of your upbringing? And if so, how did those experiences shape your perspective or influence your identity as an artist today?
Not a whole lot, actually. Really, for me, it was more. I used to be into fishing when I was younger, actually. And it's funny because the band name Gunshine, we came up with that because Florida's called the Sunshine State, but it's shaped like a gun. So they, that was kind of its nickname. They said that it sometimes referred to as the Gunshine State, but for me, it was always like growing up. I was into sports, and so it was always like playing pickup, like football games, basketball, and then I actually played baseball in high school and stuff as well. But I also was into riding dirt bikes and stuff like that. So But yeah, I didn't. I wasn't super into like shooting guns all the time and stuff. But I mean, as a kid, I kind of was. I was into like the video games and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so.
The album is described as a dynamic journey with genre-bending moments. Was that experimentation intentional from the start, or did it develop organically during the writing and recording process?
It just develops organically. We just have fun making music that, like whatever comes out. We're not really like a formula kind of a band. We don't really. That's kind of why each song is so different. We just did like a ballad before this one, and then Single Looks Good on You is a completely different vibe than the last song, and then the one that comes out in April is going to be a different vibe than than Single Looks Good on You. So really, we just set out to write the best version of whatever song it is that we're working on, whatever idea. So it could be all over the place. It could be a more chill moment. It could be a heavier moment. So it's really just like whatever comes out.
Your guitar tone on this track on the single is described as blistering, but still melodic. What gear, amps, or pedals were essential in shaping that signature Gunshine sound on this record?
Yeah, it's usually a Marshall JCM 800 and a Les Paul. It's really not reinventing the wheel there. Just kind of going with I'm kind of I'm the kind of guy where like simplicity with tone equals letting your personality come out even more. So I try not to get too much in the way of the bare bones part of your playing and stuff, but. I would say, so another big thing we used on this album was the Synergy preamp modules that they just came out with, but they're all tube, they're all analog, and they're really cool because you can pop different ones in, so you can change out the amps, and so we did a lot of stuff like that. But when I was in Vancouver and we did Goth Girl and Single Looks Good on You, we used a JCM 800.
You mentioned Les Pauls. Is that your main body? Do you have SGs or any pointy guitars in your arsenal?
I have a couple 7 strings, and I used the 7 strings quite a bit on this album too, just to thicken stuff up. But let's see, I'll show you because it's right next to me right here. This is my number 1 main. It's like a 91, and it's gotten a bunch of wear throughout the years. As you can see, like the neck is like
a lot
super worn. Yeah, so that's been my mainstay for the Les Paul kind of thing.
How did you become a Les Paul user and not a Strat or SG guy?
Because that's what chose me. It chose me more than I chose it. It's just what was in my head, with the sound and the vibe. And I remember walking into a music store and seeing Les Paul for the first time, and I always thought it was like this. It barely even looked like a guitar to me. It looked like a piece of like art or something like that. So I always just thought they were really, really cool. And that was always like my dream guitar, and that's basically what I've stuck with. So.
And what musician was that dream guitar on that drove you that way?
I mean, Slash is probably like my biggest influence, but also like Tom Schultz from Boston played Les Pauls, and of course Jimmy Page and stuff like that. So. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the great players, of course, use Les Pauls. My first guitar was actually a Strat. My first electric was a Strat. So I still like Strats too, and I have a couple Strats, but for me, it's more comfortable. Les Pauls are more comfortable. So I like the tone. It was more, I always grew up playing in 4-piece bands, bands where I was the rhythm guitar and the lead guitar. So it was kind of like, Les Pauls sounded good for both. So that was another big thing.
Since you're repping Florida energy, what's the most Florida man thing you've ever witnessed or experienced on tour that made you think, yeah, this could only happen here?
Oh, man, it's something every day, probably. We just did this new music video for Single Looks Good on You. We did it at this out on the beach at this tiki bar, and it was awesome. I mean, there was a bunch of people. We were partying on boats, and it was definitely typical like Florida kind of stuff going on. But our singer Jordan, he's always having some Florida man moments. I I don't even have a perfect example right now, but yeah, that's just kind of how it is all the time.